Hi there, once again I am back with another lesson. This is lesson number 26 of HTML and CSS course, and in this lesson we are going to learn about CSS position. This is another important topic in order to position your elements and design your layout in a better professional way. So actually this position attribute specifies the type of position method that an element can use. There are different type of position values that we can put inside this position attribute, position property actually. So they can be static, relative, fixed, absolute, and sticky. Let's talk about each of them individually. So first of all, when we provide elements some sort of position, they are then positioned using the properties like top, bottom, left, and right properties. However, these properties just work with specific positioned elements for specific valued elements. So let's talk about those elements. So first of all, static position. This is the default position that an element has in HTML when it is entered inside our HTML markup. So this position element, the element having static position doesn't has any sort of effect by top, bottom, left, or right properties. So a static sort of position element just follows a simple flow of the page and is rendered according to just simple page order according to simple page order. So let's see its example inside our IDE and see how does it affect the layout of our page. So right here, this is our directory in which we are working for several previous lessons. So for today's lesson, I'm going to create a new lesson. You get a new file for each lesson so that you may practice it. The link is in each video's description. So this is CSS position topic, and I am going to give it the extension of .html, boilerplate, and CSS position. And inside body, I'm going to create a simple div, and it would contain this is simple text. And if we go live, then we can see that this is in a simple flow of the page. Whereas if I create a style tag and give it the position static, sorry, I have to give it to div tag position static, and as we go to our browser again, it is just unaffected right here. So for the next position type, we have relative position type, and it is position to the normal flow of the page, but when we specify top, right, bottom, or left attributes for it, then it is specified for reaching those attributes and is then according to that layout fixed inside our page. So right here, if I create another div and give it this is relative div, and inside our let us give it ID of relative so that we may use its example and style it relative ID of relative, and inside it I would give it the position relative. So inside our browser you can see that it is just placed inside our layout just according to simple layout or page flow right here. But if I specify top for it, top 0 pixels 0 and right 0, so it would then be fixed inside our page according to these attributes. Right, if I give it top 0 and left 100 pixels, so you can see that it has just shifted to a bit right side, but if in our previous example when we gave it 0 right here, it won't move because it has a complete width till here, and by default it is at its 0 position. So if I just give it 100 from right, if I give it 100 pixels, and in that case it would just move towards the left side. So it just follows these left and right positioning according to top, right, or otherwise if we don't specify these properties, it is just fixed inside our layout according to normal flow of the page. Whereas the next property is fixed position, and in this fixed position it is positioned inside our page according to the viewport, which means the screen that we see on our display. And let us see its example, you would get better understanding that way. Right here, if I create a div and give it id of fixed, and let's make this text a bit bigger. So that we may get a scrolling page right here. So right here, so if I style this fixed one, so id fixed, and give it a position of fixed. So by default, when we give it the position of fixed, its top and left are fixed to 0. So if I give some text inside it, this is fixed, I have to give it the top 0 and right 0, actually left 0, left 100 pixels. So right here you can see it is just fixed on our page, and it just doesn't move, and it is fixed on side our viewport, not relative to other elements. Whereas the next is absolute position, and this absolute is also fixed, but it is not fixed with our viewport, but it is fixed to its positioned ancestor. And if for deciding its positioned ancestor, we have to give the relative position to its parent element, and if none of its parent element is having relative position, then it would just be styled inside our page according to relative to the body tag. So right here, if we see right inside here, we create a tag and give it id of absolute, and this is absolute. So right here, as you can see, it doesn't has any parent which has relative display, so it would just be styled according or fixed according to our body tag. So if I style it and give it position absolute, so in this case as well, the top and left properties are set to 0 by default. So if we come here and see that it is just right here, this is absolute, this is absolute, it is right here, and it isn't visible because this is just under it. Let's change its position a bit. So give it top 5 pixels and left 10 pixels. So right, you can see that this is that element, and if I give it the top of 50 pixels, so it would just be right here. But inside, if we move it inside this relative tag, which means its parent is now this relative id tag, so then it would just be shifted according to and used position according to that tag. So right, you can see its 0 is now here, not inside the body 0. So this is the absolute position. I think you got the idea about it. So the next one is sticky position. The sticky position just toggles between the fixed position and the absolute position, relative position, according to the position of the scroll. So if a sticky position just toggles between relative and fixed position, as I told you, it is position relative until a given offset position it is met inside the viewport. So the position that we will specify, if it is inside our viewport, then it would follow the relative position, whereas it then gets sticky or fixed when it is not following that protocol. So for example, if I give it a position sticky, creating a tag of sticky and give it this is sticky. So for example, if right here I create its text a bit long, so that when we scroll we can see that what is the difference between sticky and the other. So if I style this sticky tag and give it sticky position sticky, So right here it is set to 0 0 and give it top 0. Let us give it a background as well. Right here, as you can see, if I go down and copy it from here and paste it right above every tag, right inside here, so you can see that it is just it just gets fixed right here. So when I scroll it is just right now fixed right here, but when it gets inside the viewport, a specific viewport, then it gets fixed right here. Actually relative, it is styled relative to its path. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked the video. If you did, then press the thumbs up button. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.